Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. Patricia Clarke is a British Columbia-based artist, writer and speaker who draws much of her inspiration from the natural splendor surrounding her and her real-life experiences. During her rewarding journey, she has been an entrepreneur and won various awards and contracts to import her specialty candy into stores like Costco, London Drugs and Superstores. However, in 2010, she left her import-export career to channel her experience and energy into building her art practice. Her intuitively painted art can be seen hanging in galleries, homes and businesses worldwide. But this isn't why she's with us today. Patricia, or Trisha to her friends, has published her first book, The Unknown Sister, a memoir of the search for the truth of my paternity. And it has become a bestseller. Her purpose in writing this book was to support others and give them the courage to have difficult conversations. Patricia has been seen on screens and stages educating about adoption, secrets, art and spirituality. And often her art and book are woven into her speaking. You can often find her travelling and spending time in nature when she's not in her studio creating. This is the Strong, Single and Human podcast. Hi, welcome Trisha Clarke to the podcast. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Claire. Happy to be here. Quite excited, actually.
Well, I can't wait to hear about your journey. And also we're talking about a subject that really isn't really around single parenting, but is around an important subject, which is adoption, right? So let's start with your journey, right? So tell us a bit about yourself and your journey.
Okay, so if I start not at the beginning, because the thing is that things unraveled. Yes, I was adopted. Was I told I was adopted? No, I wasn't. Did I know that I was? Yes. And at 16, I found my adoption papers. And that really was very devastating on one hand, because the man that I loved and wanted to be my father was not my father.
Well, birth father.
But yeah, and it was just, but on the other hand, I also got clarity that what I perceived the truth to be was in fact the truth.
So how did you know that because you weren't told that you were adopted, but how did you know you were adopted?
Because there was little things that happened throughout my life. I was 7 years old and I was with my parents and the siblings that I grew up with. And this man that my mom had grown up with walks into the room and says, kind of hi to everybody. And when he gets to me, he says, "You must be adopted. You don't look like anybody else in your family."
Why?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. And then his sister immediately took him out into the kitchen. Wow. And he never came back. And then I was 11 and I was with a cousin and she was 2 years older than me. And, it was such a privilege to be in her company.
Yeah.
So she said to me one day, "I've got a secret." And I said, "Oh, what is it? Like, this is a big deal." And she said, "No, you have to tell me a secret first." Well, I didn't have a secret. And I said, "Oh, I think I'm adopted." Well, I guess that her mom had heard what I had said. So when I went home, my mom said to me, "Why do you think you're adopted?" I was so scared. I said, "I don't know." And I just kept walking. And that was the end of the conversation.
Wow.
So I'm 14. Again, I'm with this cousin that I have the privilege, because she's so much older. And she says to me, you know, you're adopted, don't you? And of course, I'm trying to be really cool and sophisticated like her at 16. And I said, well, of course I know that. But I didn't have proof other than all of those little things that happened throughout my life. But realistically, somewhere between 2 and 20% of the population has misattributed parentage.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people that are in the same situation that I was in.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happened when I was 16 with my stepdad, he was sitting at the kitchen table paying bills, writing the checks, and I'm there because I love being with him and I want to help. So he turned to me and he said, you must never, ever look in this brown folder.
Well, that was like a red rag to a bull, wasn't it?
Well, and it was the way that he said it, right? Because he never talked to me like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. So, a couple of weeks went by and I didn't do anything. But then one day I was home alone and I thought to myself, don't do that. Like, you're a good girl. Don't do that. But I did it anyway.
Wow. And so, okay. And so you looked in the folder and you found your birth certificate.
And I found my adoption papers. I didn't find my birth certificate.
Oh, wow.
So it says what my mom's name is, where the father is blank. And then it has my stepdad's name. And it was like, burn those documents into my brain, put everything back. And then it wasn't very long that I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for information on how to get to a private school. So I sent out letters and got letters back and gathered all the information and then gave it to my stepdad and said, would you please send me to private school? And he said, no. And what I was doing was I didn't want to live with people that were lying to me.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And did that mean by going to private school, you would actually be living at the school?
I would be living away from home.
Yeah.
Right. Without these people that won't tell me who I am or what I am or anything. So then I got married and I would be about 21
wow, you still haven't said anything.
No.
Okay. Wow.
So my parents had moved away. Stepdad came to visit. As soon as he walked in the door, I said to him, I know you're not my father. And he said to me, we thought you'd probably figured it out. End of conversation.
And no, like, did you have questions for him and anything like?
I was so scared. I was so scared. So anyway, I went home back to where he lived in the next province and said to him, I need to talk to Mom. I need to tell her that I know that you're not my dad. So he said, okay. So it was a not fun day. When I stepped out of the car, Dad grabbed my arm and said to me, don't you dare say anything to hurt your mother.
So your mom was your mom, but your dad wasn't your dad?
Was a stranger.
Okay.
Yeah, stranger. So I couldn't believe how much I could dislike somebody that I loved so much that very minute. So then I went into the house. Mom was an absolute mess. And I just said to her, I know that Norman's not my dad. And she didn't say anything.
But how long had your mum and your stepdad been together?
If I was 21, they would have been together 19 years.
Wow. Okay. Crikey.
Yeah. So, that was the end of the conversation. But part of it was I wanted to release Mom from all of the hurt in her life.
Yeah.
Because people were always, kind of cuddling her because she was 10 years old when her twin brother passed away.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So people were, they treated her as she was very fragile. And in this whole process of unraveling my story, I was thinking one day, I wonder what it would have been like if instead of the family all hiding my secret of who I was, if they had said to my mom, we will stand with you in telling the truth.
Yeah.
How empowered would my mom have felt?
Yeah.
Instead of carrying around all of this and all of these stories.
Yeah.
But anyway, that didn't happen. So then I was 29. I was really unhappy. I was really angry with the whole world. And I went to mom. It was a Monday morning. She was probably a little hungover. And I demanded that she tell me my father's name. So she's sitting at the table and she's crying, and there's a matchbook, laying on the table. And I slid it across and just said to her, would you please write his name on the inside, which she did. And then she got up, went to the bathroom. So I burned it into my brain, put it back exactly where it had been. And when she came back, I told her, just leave his name in the safety deposit box and I'll get it then, Mom. But meanwhile, I had a name.
Gosh.
So I contacted Parent Finders, which was really interesting because at that time, my kids were really little. And I can remember one day standing there looking at them when they were playing. It's like, who are you little people? Like, I don't know. I don't know who you are. So when I contacted Parent Finders, they said, well, that reaction is quite common, that now you really want to know who you are.
Yeah.
So with their help and a few others, I managed to contact this fellow, Ben, who Mom said was my dad. And I met him, and he had white, wavy hair. He was very kind. I said to him, do you think I'm your daughter? And he said, yes. I said, do you want to have DNA testing? He said, no, you are mine.
Wow.
So, but it was just a conversation. We had dinner together and I went home. We had a couple of phone calls after that, and that was kind of the end of it.
Wow.
And then with two little kids and working, life got really crazy busy. And there was some overlap in that I knew people that he knew. So the lady that lived across the street from me when I was 15, I used to babysit for her. And Ben and her husband had been in the army together. So there was that, and there was a few little connections like that. So as time went on, I decided that I would say to Mom, I never told her that I had met Ben.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Did you say anything? And okay.
No, didn't say anything. Said to my siblings, I'm only your half sister. And the one brother knew because he had seen the adoption papers because he was that kind of kid. Yeah. The other brother said, well, now some of the conversations I've had with Mom make sense. Oh. So that was how that went. And then life went on until I was 69. And my daughter said, Mom, I want you to connect with your paternal family. And Facebook now was a thing. Yeah. So I connected with Rob through Facebook, sent him a little note and said we might be related. Drove 5 hours away to where he lived, and I met him, and he was just lovely, just like his dad. He was very kind. It was an amazing experience. So I said, how about if we do DNA? Which we did. Yeah. And a week later, I got the DNA back. Not related.
Oh my God.
Exactly. Oh my God.
So if you're not related to Rob and Rob's dad is Ben, then
not related to him either.
So you're not related to the dad that you thought was your dad that your mum wrote down on a piece of paper.
No, not
Oh my
related to the
God,
man
what
who
did you
raised me.
do?
Well, I joined Ancestry.
Okay.
So, as we were saying earlier about the synchronicity, so it was Christmas 2018 that I'm sitting in my little chair saying to myself, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing here? I'm so lost in my life, and I know I'm not here to just take up space. So, what is it that you want?
Yeah.
So, I joined Ancestry, and I connected with a fourth paternal cousin, and she is hilariously funny. And she lives in California, and we're messaging back and forth. So one day, this fellow Matt shows up on my Ancestry, and it's like, who is Matt, and how come he has so much DNA with me? So
because is it by this time you'd submitted your DNA results as well?
Yeah.
So then you could, okay. So it gives you more of an accurate picture of who potentially your family are.
Yes, exactly. So I'm reading this thing about, trying to figure out who Matt is in my head. And I receive a message from Janice at the same time. And she says, Matt's grandfather is your birth father. And by the way, I am a DNA detective.
Oh,
well, I
God.
cried. I cried. So So I went on the internet to find out where Janice lived in California to see if I had ever been there.
Yeah.
And while I'm on the screen looking where Ojai, California is, a thing pops up on my screen to take a class from Deborah King, who I had wanted to take a class from. Deborah King is in Ojai, California.
And who is Deborah King?
She does she teaches energy healing.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Right? Exactly. So I messaged Janice, can I come and give you a hug? She said yes. I got on the plane and went to California.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And then in between, what happened was I sent a message through Ancestry to Matt to say we might be related. And I was trying really careful, treading lightly, because what Janice was kind enough to do was kind of format how to lay the email out so that nobody would get
upset. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Yeah. It's quite a delicate subject to approach with somebody.
Exactly. So he said, contact my dad. He'll give you all the information that you want.
Right. So would Matt's dad be your brother? Right. Okay. Wow.
So I send a message off to Grant.
Yeah.
And his reply was, I've got it memorized. We were wondering how long it would be before we received a message like yours, as our father was not a faithful man.
Oh. Wow.
Exactly. It's like, well, that was easy. So the next thing that happened was I got a batch of photographs from Grant, and there was one photograph of him around 17, 18.
Yeah.
And it just really bothered me. So I went and I found a picture of myself at the same age and laid them side by side on the counter, and we look like twins.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So eventually, when I met Grant, he's 9 weeks older than me. He said, but really, I was 6 weeks early, so we're only 3 weeks apart in age, and I think we're twins. It's like, I love his sense of humor. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. Whatever.
And how old was Grant at this point?
How
old were you and Grant? Because
I was 72. So I was 72.
Oh my God. So he was 72.
Exactly. Not shocked by his father's behavior.
So did you speak to your mom about all of this?
No, because she passed away in 2002. Right. So she didn't know anything.
And but you don't know the story behind the fact that how she met him and the story behind how you were created, etc. I mean, we all know how you were created, but
it wasn't an immaculate conception, which is what I thought for years, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think there are any.
One day I would be about 32 and Mom showed up out of the blue, which she never did, and said to me that she had met my dad at a dance, and she was there with two of her girlfriends, and they all were madly in love with him. She was 18, and she said, and I won. So the fascinating thing about it, because I have so many synchronicities in my life, is when I was writing about that in my book, this thing pops up on the screen and says, do you want to know when you were conceived? And it's like, well, why not? So I look it up, and it was June the 1st. My mom's twin passed away June the 2nd. That weekend was the 8th anniversary of his passing. So how much pain was she in?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So this tall, handsome man comes and says, sweetie, I can make you feel better.
Yep. Sweeps her off her feet. Yeah.
Yeah. It was that easy.
And did she see him for any? I suppose you don't know if she didn't. She just saw him that one night, or
as far as I know, there was no relationship at all. But eventually, they moved. My mom and dad lived in Vancouver.
Yeah,
and my mom's sister told me this story about her and my mom walking down the street, and this man walking by. And Mom saying that was my birth father. But of course, my cousin is just like, where? Like you didn't even stop and talk to him. Well, I didn't know if any of that was ever true until I met my brothers. And is where they were living at the time. Exactly. So September the 3rd, 2019, I received a message so Grant lives in the next province. So by plane, he's about an hour and a half away from me.
Blimey.
So it's 9:30 in the morning, and I open up my emails, and there's a message. Hi, I'm Grant's younger brother. I live quite near you. Let's get together at your convenience. I messaged right back.
Oh, my God. And this is Monty. So Monty.
This is Monty.
This is Monty. So Monty, we've interviewed. I've interviewed previously, and then Monty had said to me, "Oh my God, you need to talk to my sister because she's got an interesting story and it would be interesting for your podcast." And that's how we've got Trisha on. So this is Monty. So I've already met Monty, but yeah. So you then replied back.
So I replied back. We arranged to meet at 11 o'clock that morning. Wow. So I got to the coffee shop early and sat so I could watch the front door. And I see this tall man rushing quickly towards the front door. So I stand up, and Monty comes in and just throws his arms around me and holds me.
Shame.
And I cried.
Oh, shame. And Monty is so nice. Such a nice
know, and
guy.
it was just so weird. Why would I let a strange man hug me?
I know.
Other than it was a public place.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but it was just so surreal, from the very beginning. And the other fascinating thing about him was, because I'd had all these secrets and lies in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Was, let's always be honest with each other. And I'm thinking, who are you?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So he was born about 5 hours by plane away from me. Neither of us are in our birth cities. He lived 15 minutes away from me.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's insane. And so do you guys know how many brothers and sisters you've got? So you've got 2 brothers at the moment. Are there any?
And there's 2 sisters. One has passed away.
Right. Okay.
Which is another story.
But Monty and Grant live together. They knew about each other.
They Monty and Grant and the two sisters all grew up together.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
They had a really difficult childhood.
Wow.
My childhood for the most part was really beautiful, except that I always had this feeling that I didn't fit. And I had to be compliant because I don't know what's going to happen next. So one of the things was, because the backstory is that mom was kept at home when she was pregnant with me.
Wow.
And after I was born, she went to another town to work and left me with my grandmother.
Wow.
So I used to, when I got really tired, have this nightmare about I'm standing in my crib crying, and I'm about a year and a half old or a year old because I want my mom. And this female walks towards me, but she has no face. And it was just so weird. Well, when I went and talked to my grandmother after I had talked to my mother, my mom had come and taken me without consent from my grandmother after I had been with my grandmother for a full year. So it wasn't that I was having a nightmare, I was having a memory.
Wow.
And that was all validated by mom's sister, who I still have, who's about to turn 90.
Crikey. Blimey.
Yeah. And she said it was an awful day. She said, because I couldn't understand what was happening. Why was your mom there? Why was she taking you away? And my aunt was 12 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So she said it really hurt. Partly she was hurting because her and I had a connection, because she had been with me since I was a new baby. And then her mother's upset. And it's like, what do you do?
Well, exactly. And so I suppose this was around the time that your mum would have met your stepdad as such, I suppose.
Yeah, and they had been married a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she thought, right, well, that's okay then. I'll come pick my child up and go back and not have a thought about any of that situation. Yeah. Wow.
And they lived in different cities. And it would have been about, at that time, an 8-hour train ride.
Oh, my gosh.
Between the two. Yeah. So it's not like, you could pop in and whatever. Yeah. And as time went on, when I got older, I was really careful, because my mom and my grandmother had a very fragile relationship. Mm. So I wasn't doing anything to rock the boat. So I never, other than the one day that I went to my grandparents and said, I know this part of the story, that I was with you. And I know that Norman's not my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you tell your grandmother before you told your mother, or had you already spoken to your mother and your stepfather?
Yeah. It was kind of like, I know what the social rules should be.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and it's like, it's really strange, because I always felt much safer and closer to my grandmother. And every school holiday for, 2 months, I would be with my grandmother. Wow. I wasn't at home with my siblings. And nobody knows, because I have asked, what the agreement was between mom and grandma. Wow. As to, why I was there.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, yeah, it is. And it's like, well, I guess that's why I feel the way that I feel.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, your step siblings, your half siblings, I should call them, really. They still were at home. You were the only one that was taken out of the house, and they didn't go off anywhere.
No, they stayed home with mom. And I thought, well, realistically, if you have 3 children and you can get rid of one for 2 months.
Yeah. Well, it reduces the numbers down, but
cuts down the fighting.
Well, yeah, but it would cause questions.
Well, it did. But like I say, I felt so much more comfortable with my grandmother.
That you didn't care. You were like, great.
I didn't care. I was having fun. And really living with my grandmother, I could have anything that I wanted. However, I have to say to you, I was very careful to not ever ask for anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's that subconscious thing, you don't really belong here. You really are not entitled.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I would say that's insane.
So what did you find out about your birth father then? So what did the boys tell you?
He was not a good man.
Right.
He ended up in jail more than once.
Oh my gosh.
And it was around 1976, I think, that he'd been in jail for 2 weeks, got out on bail, and left Canada and went to the US.
And left the boys as well?
Yes, the boys had been apprehended by social services and had been taken back to their mom. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and he really hurt the sisters.
Wow.
He really hurt the sisters.
Wow.
Which is, yeah.
So there was so in a way, it was the best thing that your mum didn't actually stay with him or whatever, because your life would have been so different to the life that you had. Yeah. And so when I sit here now at this age and look at my life and say, like, holy cow, how magical is this? Yeah.
Because, even though he was not a good man, he made awesome children.
Well, this is true. And I've met two of them. I haven't met Grant and I haven't met the sisters, but I've met two of them, and you guys are so resilient and happy and cheerful, and you just get on with life. I mean,
and we've all got the same sense of humor. Like, how does that happen?
Well, I know, but I suppose it does.
Yes, it does.
How did you feel when you found out about your father and the rogue that he was?
It didn't matter, because when I had met Monty first in the physical, right? And he was such a kind, gentle soul that it's like, well, he's dead. I don't care. Yeah. Like, I really don't care. And
was your father dead? Did you ever meet your father?
No, he died in 1986, I think Monty said.
Oh, wow. Okay, so quite some time.
So he's been gone a long time, and it was just I thought, if I'll get a name, I'll move on. Yeah, I'm not expecting anything from anybody. Yeah, that's not how it's gone, because I have Monty, my brothers, and a whole bunch of cousins as well. Yeah. And we're all friends, and we all laugh together.
No, which is great. So it's like you've got a whole new family as such.
A whole new family, and it's like we've known each other forever. So I have a cousin, Marilyn, who's a couple of years younger than me, and we were all sitting having coffee one day, and she said, "It's so weird. It's like you've always been here." Yeah. And that's how I feel. It's not like we've missed 70 years of our lives together. Yeah. It's like we just picked up where we left off.
Wow. I know. Yeah. How does your half siblings feel about all of the situation and everything?
I don't have a relationship with them.
Oh, wow.
So at one point when life was really stressful, and I ended up going for counseling, and the counselor had said to me, we were probably talking about Mom. She said, "It's okay to cry." And I'm thinking, I have nothing to cry about. Wow. And she said, "You have every right to be angry." It's like, I'm not angry. Oh. Well, maybe I was. Yeah. But it was that, so this went on for months, that every time I went to see her, she said, "Why do you go to see your mom?" And I said, "I love my mom, and that's what a good daughter does." Wow. "Why do you go to see your mom?" So then there was a couple of unpleasant incidents, and I was really angry and knew that I was. I thought, no. So I went to Mom and said, "Look, I'm going for counseling. I can't pretend anymore. Please don't contact me." Yeah. So when I broke the tie with Mom and my stepdad, that was the end of the relationship with the siblings as well. And we had never been close. But the thing is, because I've thought about it, it's like, why, if you loved your stepdad so much, would you say stay away? And it's like, but every time I look at you, I'm looking at a lie. I
Yeah.
still don't know who you are. And
Yeah.
nobody said to me, we love you. Nobody said, we're sorry, we didn't understand. Nobody said anything. They just said, okay.
Wow.
Exactly.
And just let you
So,
go.
which was fine because I really didn't need any more drama in my life.
No. No, and the thing is, because you've been lied to for such a long time, like it's a major situation,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. It's not like, Santa Claus and Easter Bunny.
No, no, not at all.
No.
Not at all. So look, what's been the hardest part of all of this?
The hardest, scariest part was going and talking to my mom.
Mm.
That was devastating.
And what about you say devastating? What, like devastating to your mum or to you?
No,
or
to me, like I had to be the adult, right?
Yeah.
At 21 years old and say to mom, I know. And I didn't use the word lying. I just said, I know that Norman's not my father. And again, because everybody in the family had treated her like she was so fragile, that was how I felt. And I had no support to say, you can do this, it's okay, or to give me a hug afterwards or anything. I just had to say what I had to say and walk away because mom was a pathetic mess.
Wow.
And she had dad. That was the good news.
Yeah.
So I wasn't concerned about her, but I could not, shall we say, let go of myself and feel what I needed to feel. Because it was not, what am I going to do if I fall apart? There's nobody to put me back together. So I didn't fall apart.
Wow. That's very strong of you. Very strong. So, talking as a child who's gone through this then, and like, I don't know if there's anyone out there listening to this who may be in a similar situation, but what would your advice be to one, I suppose, how do you prepare yourself, or what are some of the things to consider if, one, you find out you are adopted and then you want to go out and find your birth parents, right? Whether that be just one birth parent or both, because you can be like a child adopted into a family, right? So what do you need to consider before you go out and search for your birth parents?
Well, support.
Right.
Adoption, there's adoption support groups all over the world, and they generally don't cost anything. Or you can have a private counselor, because really there's things that you just need to say out loud, like I'm scared, like what if? And one of the things that I did was with the Forget-Me-Not adoption people that I work with now, they had this fellow come, Brian Stanton, who was given up for adoption and then went to hunt for his parents. And he videoed his journey of what it was like. And it was amazing. And it's on YouTube and it's free. And it's called with the little @ sign, Ghost Kingdom. And I questioned why it was called Ghost Kingdom. And it's because you fantasize and make up all these ghost characters about what your parents really are like.
Yeah.
Yeah, your real parents would never say no to you.
Yeah.
Your adopted parents, well, they do, especially if you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So it was really fascinating the way that he told the story. Okay. And I didn't ever do that. I just constantly was on high alert. So I read this book called Coming Home to Self by Nancy Newton Vernier.
Yeah.
And she was a psychologist. She adopted a daughter and then she gave birth to a daughter. So she had 2 girls and she could compare the differences of how they related. Wow. And when I read that book, it was like she had written it about me. So people that are adopted are generally on high alert because they're looking for their parents. They tend to be more psychic. They tend to be more creative. And it's like, yes, I know all that already.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I when I met my brother Grant, I had to pick him up at the local airport. So that was fine. But the day before, the arrangements were made that I was going to go and meet my brother-in-law because my sister, Leah, had passed away and he really wanted to meet me. So that was fine.
Okay.
So now, but he lives on a farm about an hour from me. And I'm got Monty in the car. I'm picking up my brother who I've never met. And I'm going to the country. And I'm going to be with 3 strange men.
Men, oh my gosh.
Exactly. And I said, what is the matter with you? Anyway, I phoned my friend Mary Lou because I was going away and her husband had not been well, and I wanted her to know I was thinking about her. So in the conversation, for some bizarre reason, I say Rob, who's the brother-in-law, is a black powder gun enthusiast, and Mary Lou's husband was as well.
All right.
Us girls have more important stuff to talk about than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did. And she said, what's his name? And I said, well, I don't remember his last name, but I've got it written down. I'll send it to you when we get off the phone, which is what I did. The next morning when I opened my emails, there was a message from Mary Lou, call me right away.
Uh-oh.
Exactly, which I did. So it turned out that my sister Leah and Rob had been at her wedding in 2002.
Wow.
Exactly. And like Mary,
small world.
It's tiny. So now I had a secret. So it was awesome. I go to and I'm trying to not smile.
Yeah.
So I go to the airport and I pick up Grant. I have Monty with me. We stop and we have lunch. And then we go out to Rob's. And I let Monty and Grant go in ahead of me because they knew Rob.
So were you at Mary Lou's wedding as well?
I was invited. I had to go out of town to work.
Oh, no.
Exactly. Like
you would have met your sister.
Exactly. I wouldn't have known she was my sister.
No. But
we might have, because apparently we look alike. So Monty and Rob go in, or Monty and Grant go in the house ahead of me. Rob gives me a big warm hug and says to me, you're welcome to my home. And then I whispered in his ear, Mike and Mary Lou say hello. How do you know Mike and Mary Lou?
Wow.
Friends for like over 40 years, Mary Lou and I.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah. So then we're sitting there and Rob is telling me about Leah, how spiritual she was, and he's wishing that she had some place that she could practice. And I'm not saying anything because Grant is Mormon.
Yeah.
Monty's spiritualist like me, but I'm not rocking the boat at this point.
Yeah.
So I didn't say anything. And Rob and I met at the Christmas following, and I filled him in a little bit.
Oh, right. Okay.
So now it's 6 months since I've met my family, and I've gone to Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England, to take a class in mediumship.
Wow.
And the lady
didn't even know that they're there.
Yeah. So the instructor's walking around the room and she's got a deck of cards and she's saying, this box hasn't been opened for 15 years. And there's a fridge magnet in here with sunflowers on it. And I think it's for someone in the class. So she goes to the girl that I'm working with and says, sunflowers mean anything to you? And the girl says no. And then she turns to me and said, do they mean anything to you? And I said, yes, they do. And I put my hand up to take the magnet from her and said to her, thank you, Leah, which was my sister's name. I burst into tears, and that painting of the double sunflowers, which I'd done just before I went to England, flashed through my mind.
Wow.
It was the 27th of February. My birthday was the 24th. Leah's was the 17th.
Wow.
Exactly. It's like, okay, Leah. So I've been to Stansted or to Arthur Finley a couple of times since, and Leah always shows up in some random form that I'm not expecting.
Funny. Oh my gosh.
It's so cool because even though I've never known her,
yeah, you sort of
I feel
still
really
connect.
close to her.
Yeah.
Really close to her.
Oh my
So that was
gosh.
why I picked it for the cover of my book, The Unknown Sister.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, that was easy.
That's right. Because you've written a few books, haven't you?
Well, like the second one will be launched at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And then the third one will be about a year from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably before Christmas next year.
Right. Yeah. And as an adopted child, right, do you think that if you're a parent of adopted children, and I know nowadays is a bit different, right? Because nowadays it's so much open, it's so people are out there, you know, we've got gay couples with children, we've got, you know, my son has 2 half sisters, and he's fully aware that they're not, like, even if they were to come and be living with us since he was born, right, I would make sure that he's fully aware they're half sisters, they have a different mum or whatever. But so life is a little bit different now. But do you think parents should be upfront, honest, and tell their adopted children, like, that they're adopted?
Absolutely. As soon as they're old enough to comprehend it, because when I think about if I had been told that Norman wasn't my dad, I would have felt special.
Oh, wow.
Not like I have to try and fit in with these people, otherwise what's going to happen to me? Remembering that, you know, subconsciously I wasn't aware that I'd been taken from my grandmother. So there was always that feeling. And I think getting support for the parent that gives up the child and the parent that adopts is absolutely critical. Yeah, because you as the parent, you don't know, if you haven't ever experienced this, how your child is going to react. Or why they're reacting.
No, that's right. That's right.
Right? Because you can't know what you don't know. No,
not at all. Not at all. And look, my view is an adopted child should be told.
Yes.
At any age, really. I think you should be clear and open. It's like you said, it's not like Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, right? This is big and major, important stuff, right? And I'm glad things are changing and things are moving on, and we're being more open and honest. But I still, even if a child has been told, do you think they should still go to a therapist or counselling or whatever, just to deal with what's going on?
Yes, I do. Because, you know, the difficulty is in adults that I have met that will not search for their families until their parents have passed away.
Wow. Yeah.
So meanwhile, their birth parents are getting older as well.
Yeah.
So you could miss that opportunity. And it's a bit of a loyalty thing. Like, I need to be grateful. Well, you know, you can love 2 people.
Yeah. No, that's right.
You can love 2 people. And, you know, for me, it was such a blessing the way that it all unfolded, just because of the circumstances.
Yeah.
But Mom still should have said, here's the truth.
Yeah.
And she didn't, you know, at that point, Clayton hadn't done anything to get himself entangled with the law when she was with him.
Yeah.
So she didn't know that he was a bad person.
No.
And he probably didn't know he was a bad person.
Yeah.
So, you know, the universe just stepped in and said, okay, we're going to rewrite this part of the story.
Wow. But she shouldn't have been ashamed of it. But I suppose back then,
but
out of wedlock.
You know, but everybody in town knew.
I know. It's just nuts.
It's like,
that's insane.
So So I have a little short list of other families that came to my grandmother and mother and said, we will adopt this baby. One fellow offered to marry my mom. And as time went on, he won the lottery.
Oh my God.
It's like, Mom.
Hello. Shame.
Yeah.
So how has this all affected you, like personally, within your like working life and with your relationships and things like that? Because this must have had an major impact on you.
Huge, because one day I was swimming with a girlfriend and I was, I don't know, let's say 40. And she said to me, "Oh, you've given your power away." And I'm thinking, given my power away? I don't have any.
Wow.
So when you think about being 1 year old and taken from the person you were bonded to,
yeah,
and then all of these other little things happening where I'm powerless, nobody's telling me the truth.
Yeah.
So the difference between that and now I feel empowered, partly because I wrote a book when I didn't think I could or should.
Good.
And I have such peace. I have such peace. And my mom's sibling that is still alive and my cousins on the maternal side of the family are so accepting of everything that's happened. It's amazing. And then on the paternal side, it's like, well, come on in. We were expecting somebody.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it is so, and on the days, because, we all have days where it's like, life is too much.
Yes.
So I stand in the living room and I laugh because I'm looking at my Greenwood space, living in Clayton Heights.
Well, exactly. And basically Clayton, what's your father's name?
That's
Clayton.
my father's name.
Yeah. Clayton Heights.
My father's name is Clayton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Well, it is. It's like, if you had to make up a story, would you think to do that?
No. Not where you would be buying a house and moving to a place called Clayton Heights. That's crazy.
It is
crazy. So did it affect, you're a fantastic and an awesome artist. So, but did it affect what work you went into and what jobs you did and how it affect your confidence?
Well, yes and no. I have this really strange life where people come and offer me jobs that I am not qualified to do.
Wow.
However, you think that I can.
Yeah.
And I don't know who my father is. I don't know what hidden talents I have. I don't know what I'm capable of. So I use that to say, well, if I really can't do this, it's your fault. You asked me.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Right? But I went and I did it, and I was really surprised to find out that I can teach, and I can sell, and I can paint, and I can write, and I can do all kinds of things. Because on one hand, in some families, well, our family doesn't do that. I didn't have that block.
No, well, no, because you didn't know
I don't
half
know
your family.
if I can or if I can't.
Yeah.
So I will.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I used it to my advantage, and I've done I commercial fished for 13 years, had some interesting little things happen there where people said to me, "Are you from Santura," which is an island off the BC coast where they have Swiss people. And I said to the guy, "Why are you asking me that?" And he said, "Well, because you look like you're Swiss." And it's like, well, who knows? Anyway, it turns out
Dad's Swiss.
3%. I'm 3%. So he must have been 6.
Wow.
Yeah, just really. So, the thing, for some bizarre reason, that I always try to look for the silver lining.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, though, with caution, the silver lining can trip you up, and you can stay some places far too long just to prove that you have the tenacity to deal with difficult situations when really.
I know, when you really need to get out. Get
Yeah.
out and get on with life. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Look, Trisha, it's been fantastic listening to you tell your story, because it is amazing, and it's amazing how life has pointed you in different directions to enable you to find your family, basically,
Exactly.
which is just amazing. It's just different things have cropped up, and you found Grant, and then you found Monty, and you've met a whole new family, which is awesome.
A whole new family, and there's even more really fun synchronicities. So my sister Leah has a daughter. Her daughter's name is the same as my daughter.
Wow.
They have the same color hair. They're both tall. It's like, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah, that's crazy. I know it's crazy. It's crazy.
The
Look,
whole thing is crazy.
If people want to learn more about your story, look at your books, look at your artwork, your fantastic artwork, how do they get in contact with you?
Patricia Clarke with an E, creations.com.
Right.
It's all there.
Fantastic.
They can email me. They can look at the artwork.
And if they want to speak to you and ask you any questions about adoption and like what they should do and who they should go with, and they can message you there. Can
contact me.
Okay, brilliant. Awesome. No, that's great. That's great, because people may have questions, but if not, go and check Patricia's artwork out. It's unbelievable. It's really good. Really, really good. But hey ho, I'm a fan. Just one final question, Trisha. What piece of advice have you been given that you still use today?
The one thing that I really want people to understand more than advice is that as children, we need to feel safe.
Yeah.
I didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
So in this whole process of adopting, you need to understand that the child that's being adopted may not feel safe because they've been taken from the person whose body they lived in for 9 months. And now they're not there. So when you think about how that would feel, that's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's a major trauma, basically, to be taken away. Yeah.
But it can be healed.
Yeah. So
it's not like, no, don't do it. It's like, yes, do it. If that's your calling, then do it. Yeah. But understand that there's, more to learn than just giving birth to your own child.
Yeah, it's not plain sailing, is it? It's great that these parents are out there adopting children, because there are children who are out in the system that need to fostered or adopted and things like that. And so that's great. Nobody would want a child to be on their own. Yeah. But it's about, there are a lot of things to consider. It's no plain sailing.
No, it's no plain sailing. And, you can get support in lots of different places, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Well, thank you for today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's always great talking to you on Monty. It's brilliant. And look, I wish you all the best. Can't wait for book number 2 to come out, and then book number 3. We'll have to get you back.
Would love to come back. Enjoyed talking to you so much. And I love sharing the happy ever after parts of my story.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single and Human podcast.